The crime that changed the internet forever. The bottles on the shelf. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and join our community of truth seekers. Because in this story, what looks like an ordinary medicine cabinet will make you question everything you thought was safe. It began on a quiet September morning in 1982 in the Chicago suburbs. The air was crisp, the kind that makes the world feel fresh. A 12-year-old girl named Mary Kellerman woke up with a runny nose. Her father handed her a capsule of extra-strength Tylenol, something millions of Americans had done countless times before. Within hours, Mary was gone. No trauma, no visible cause. Just sudden collapse and death that doctors couldn't explain. Across the city, a young postal worker named Adam Janis left work early, complaining of chest pain. He too took Tylenol. By that evening, Adam was dead. As his grieving family gathered in his home, his brother and sister-in-law reached for the same bottle of Tylenol sitting on his kitchen counter to ease their pounding headaches from crying. Within moments, they collapsed too. 3 deaths in 3 different homes. Police were baffled. Hospitals couldn't find a common thread. But when an emergency doctor began comparing notes, one word kept repeating: Tylenol. Something was wrong. By the following morning, panic spread across Chicago. Local news began warning viewers to throw away their Tylenol bottles. Paramedics were instructed to seize any medicine found near unexplained deaths. At the Johnson & Johnson headquarters in New Brunswick, executives were called into an emergency meeting. On their table lay a single bottle of Tylenol, now a symbol of terror. Detectives raced to identify the link. Each bottle came from a different store, a different lot number. The odds of contamination at the factory were slim to none. Then came the call that froze everyone in the room. A forensic analyst at the Illinois State Crime Lab confirmed. The capsules were laced with potassium cyanide, a lethal poison that kills within minutes. Someone had taken bottles off store shelves, opened them, added cyanide, then returned them for unsuspecting buyers. Every hour, new victims appeared on the news. Fear gripped America. Pharmacies were stormed by customers demanding refunds or replacements. Police began sealing off supermarket aisles as if they were crime scenes. A simple over-the-counter pill had become a weapon of mass panic. In the chaos, investigators noticed something strange. A particular batch number appeared more than once in suburban stores. Surveillance teams began checking every shelf, every corner, every pharmacy, searching for the pattern. A nation that trusted its medicine now treated every bottle like a loaded gun. But as detectives worked around the clock, one piece of evidence emerged that didn't fit any theory: an unmailed letter addressed to Johnson & Johnson, claiming responsibility and demanding $1 million to stop the killings. The writer claimed to know how and where the tampering had been done. It could have been a hoax. It could have been the killer himself. But when investigators traced the postmark, it led them not to Chicago, but to a quiet suburb hundreds of miles away. And what they found there changed everything. The man behind the letter. The letter arrived at the Chicago headquarters of Johnson & Johnson with words that sent shivers through the boardroom. Withdraw all Tylenol capsules or more will die. It was signed with a name that investigators would soon obsess over: James William Lewis. The return address? New York City. FBI agents stormed into the Manhattan apartment linked to the letter. Inside, they found Lewis calm, meticulous, almost too composed for a man under suspicion of mass murder. He denied everything. He claimed he had nothing to do with the poisonings, that his letter was just a way to extort Johnson & Johnson to get attention. But the timing was too perfect, the details too precise. Lewis had listed the exact dosage of cyanide, the same amount found in the tainted capsules. While agents interrogated him, back in Chicago the investigation grew more desperate. Hundreds of detectives combed through store inventories, tracing every box of Tylenol from factory to shelf. The manufacturer began a national recall. 31 million bottles pulled off shelves at a cost of over $100 million. It was the largest product recall in U.S. history. And yet, the killer remained a ghost. The FBI thought they had their man. Lewis had a criminal record: fraud, forgery, financial scams. But the evidence was circumstantial. He had never been seen near the Chicago stores, never purchased Tylenol in his life, and there were no fingerprints on any of the bottles. Still, something about him unsettled investigators. He was articulate, intelligent, and eerily fascinated by the case. When asked why he wrote the letter, he said, "It was a business proposal that got out of hand." Meanwhile, the city lived in fear. Hospitals reported mass panic. People fainting just from the thought of swallowing a pill. Parents checked every bottle in their homes. TV anchors read warnings in trembling voices. Do not take Tylenol. Repeat, do not take Tylenol. The product that had once symbolized safety now stood for death. But beneath the panic, there was innovation. Johnson & Johnson executives made a daring decision that would change consumer safety forever. They developed the first tamper-evident packaging, foil seals, plastic wraps, and triple lock caps. They launched an unprecedented media campaign to regain public trust, urging Americans to inspect before they ingest. By November 1982, the murders had stopped. No more poison bottles appeared. But the damage had been done. The case had changed how people viewed medicine, corporations, and even trust itself. The FBI couldn't tie Lewis directly to the murders, but he was convicted of extortion and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Still, the mystery of who actually poisoned the capsules and why remained unanswered. Then, years later, something unexpected happened. A Chicago Tribune reporter uncovered a forgotten piece of evidence in a sealed file, a handwritten note, tucked inside an old FBI envelope, describing a second suspect who had never been charged. That suspect's name had been blacked out in the records. But in the lower corner, a single line of writing remained visible. The name of a company that would later become one of the largest online retailers in the world. And suddenly, investigators realized this crime's legacy wasn't just about pills. It was about the future of trust on the internet itself. The legacy of fear. The rediscovered note shook the investigative world. It wasn't about the poison itself. It was about the method. The anonymous second suspect had studied supply chains, product distribution, and public behavior long before the digital age. The FBI analysts realized that whoever wrote that note understood one terrifying truth. You don't have to destroy a factory to bring down a brand. All you need is to make people doubt it. That lesson would echo decades later, long after the cyanide-tainted bottles vanished from shelves. In the years that followed, the Tylenol tragedy became a case study in corporate crisis management and in the psychology of fear. Johnson & Johnson rebuilt public trust through transparency and safety innovation, introducing the sealed packaging we take for granted today. But the playbook of fear, the ability to weaponize trust, didn't die in 1982. It evolved. By the late 1990s, as online shopping began to emerge, law enforcement noticed a disturbing trend. Anonymous reports of tampered products appeared not in stores, but on message boards. False claims, doctored photos, and rumors about poisoned goods spread faster than any news anchor could correct them. The FBI's behavioral unit drew a chilling line connecting the tactics, misinformation, mass panic, anonymous threats, all seeded with the same precision as the Tylenol killer. The original crime had become a blueprint for digital manipulation. In 2010, cybersecurity experts revisited the case, calling it the first modern act of decentralized terror. It was physical, yes, but psychological warfare at its core. One person's actions made millions distrust the simplest act of daily life, taking medicine. The ripple effect touched governments, brands, and even algorithms that now scan the internet for public sentiment, misinformation, and product scares. What began in a Chicago suburb now lived in the code of every online safety system ever built. James Lewis, long released from prison, continued to insist he was innocent. He appeared in interviews, calm, aged, even regretful. But every time he was asked how he knew the precise dosage of cyanide used, his eyes drifted away and he'd smile faintly. Then he'd change the subject. When he died in 2023, the case officially remained unsolved. No one else was ever charged. Yet, the world he helped create lived on. After the Tylenol murders, tamper-proof packaging became mandatory across the U.S. and Europe. Internet retailers adopted traceability systems to track every item from factory to doorstep. Social media companies developed algorithms to detect mass panic events. All of it, every seal, every barcode, every safety warning, stemmed from that 1 week of chaos in 1982. The internet didn't exist then, but psychology behind it, the fear of what you can't see, the distrust of what you consume, was born in those poison capsules. The killer's face was never found, but his idea outlived him. Make people doubt the ordinary, and they'll destroy their own certainty. That's why investigators still call it the crime that changed the internet forever. Because before online viruses, phishing scams, or data breaches, there was Tylenol, a brand turned into a weapon, trust turned into terror. And it all started with one pill. If you thought this story was intense, the next one will make you check your medicine cabinet twice. Subscribe, because the truth is darker than you think, and the next crime is already unfolding somewhere online.